Kirby Air Riders has some amazing new tracks, but also bringing back every track from the original game as well. So today I'm going to go through every single track in the game and show you guys all the shortcuts and alternate paths, so that way I can help to improve your times and also your competitiveness in this game, hopefully allowing you to win a lot more games. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and let's dive into all the tracks in Kirby Air Riders. We are starting with the new tracks in Kirby Air Riders, and the first one we have is Floria Fields, which is pretty basic. Now, most of the shortcuts and paths that I'm showing off are going to be based on gliding, so this is why in almost every single gameplay clip you're going to see me using either the paper star or the winged star to show some of these shortcuts. But you're just going to have a couple of ramps towards the beginning and the middle of this track, which is going to be mostly your only shortcuts. Fast forward to the end and there's one last ramp that you can take, or you can take one of the two boost pads on the left side or on the right side. Next up we have Wave Flow Waters, and for the most part this is a pretty simple track as well. The ramps on this track can be very important though, because if you have a machine that has good flight, you can pretty much fly all the way through the boardwalk. If you take that wave turn tighter, there's actually another ramp before that second one in the middle that you can take earlier on if you want. In this final section, you can make a left through this little cannon area and blast off of a ramp, and then stay right underneath the pirate ship if you want for yet again another shortcut. This will lead you into a glide area, and if you go through the hoops in the waterfalls, you'll actually get a boost. So you'll want to glide through those or just ride through them if they're on the bottom. This last section has a couple of ramps that you can choose from going right to left. You can choose to land on either of the waterfalls. They both have a boost pad on them. Airtopia Ruins is a perfect name because it's really about being in the air. There's one mini ramp at the very beginning that you can take right of the statue and left of the little rock in the next section, and you can easily dash through that area. In the next area, you'll find some red cones off to the left. You can make a quick left up this little tree route, which gives you an item at the end of the route, but it is a tad bit slower. Now this final area probably gives you the most options in the game. If you hang right and stay low, you can go into this underneath cavern area where you'll get a gold boost ramp. Depending on your machine, you could possibly carry this glide all the way to the waterfall section. But if you hang right and decide to take the upper path, you'll be greeted by two boost rings instead, which also gives you tons of flight all the way to the waterfall section. But there's also a golden boost pad on the far left that you can hit as well. You can do a combination of riding on the middle parts, on the right parts, and then making your way to that left golden boost if you want. So honestly, it's up to you. I don't know which one is technically the fastest, but to me, the right side just felt better. In the final area to get to the goal, it's once again filled with ramps. There's two of them on the bottom that you can take, or you can fly up on one of the two floating rocks in the sky above and then fly off of those. Next up we have Crystalline Fissure. There's a really unique top path that you can take if you keep taking the boost pads. Now you'll want to control your speed and slow down on the turns because you can easily fall off this path. But if you ride it to the very end and you have the perfect character machine combination, you can also reach the golden boost pad that's sitting on a pillar at the end, which will blast you forward even faster. But after the pillar, you can also find a segment of the track that goes straight up over the rest. You can use this as a ramp and literally glide over everything else. I like to hang to the right where you get another tight turn shortcut through an underground cave area, and you can immediately hit the rails before everyone else. Now this final underground red section might seem boring and slow, but you can actually use the little ledges to your advantage. If you start off on the far left one, you can slowly gain altitude and air as you drop down on each individual one, which will grant you a lot more speed than just driving straight through this area. Steam Gust Forge has a lot of cool little secrets. First off, you can use any of the air vents to actually push you into the direction that you need to go. It's not necessarily too much faster if you got a vehicle with good turn. Cutting the turn yourself might be a better option. But there is immediately a ramp if you hit an immediate left turn where you can actually glide up to the train. There's actually a mission where you need to land on the train, but doing so will also net you a bit of a boost where you can then glide off that train as well. Or if you want to hang on the ground, you can hang to the left and just use the left green boost pad. Now this is something that I missed my first couple of days of playing through this game, is there's actually a left path that you can take. You can tell by the different grind rails towards the end, but if you take this left exhaust pipe, it'll take you to a higher section than going through the conveyor belt with boxes. It's not that much faster, but you don't have to worry about any boxes or things getting in your way, and you could probably get away from a lot of the chaos, because when I raced, not too many other people seemed like they knew about this path either. In the lava fall area, there's some small ramps scattered around. You can actually hit these and take grind rails on the side of the stage, but it's best to hit this off the initial ramp before even landing on the ground in this room. The next section, if you have a machine with flight, there is an upper path that you can take, and you can immediately take it by boosting off of this broken ramp area. It might look like you'll fall down, but just hit the part with the yellow paint and you'll easily fly to the boost ring, which then you can take up to the upper path. This path does have some serious tight turns, so just remember that as you're going through and make sure that you're drifting early. Then my personal favorite part of any track in this game is this really cool blimp section where you can actually just dash off the top of the blimps, or you can drop down on the mini blimps at the right time in order to hit the boost. All you have to do is pretty much slam on your brakes in midair, but make sure you get the timing down or you'll fall down to the bottom. If you do fall at the bottom, don't give up. There's even wind gusts that you can hit. Just make sure you keep a lookout for them and watch out for the nearby mini blimps that are trying to run into you. And then of course the track ends with 2 ramps on the side that you can choose from, or you can go straight. If you got a glide machine, I'd recommend taking the left ramp. I know I've been talking about glide vehicles a lot, as you can tell. I like them, but I also really do like the wheelie bikes. But I'm telling you right now, Cavernous Corners is the track to use a glide machine if you can at all. There are some really fun ways to just skip most of this track by gliding. Here's one area where you can hit a ramp and then land on this little island section, or this little strip of island in the middle, where you can continue to glide off it as well into the cave section. You'll then enter this section full of water puddles. If you jump off of this left purple ramp, you can also get good glide all the way throughout this U-turn area. Now this part can definitely be a run killer. These boulders do not mess around. These things can easily knock you down into the pit and have you respawn, but the best thing to do is, if you don't have a glide machine, look out for those little boost squares. They will boost you up in the air to get you out the way at the last second. Or just pay attention to the way the boulders are falling. They will always move left to right or right to left, going right, middle, left, or left, middle, right. If you pay attention closely before you come up to this section, you'll easily dodge these boulders. This next crystal section has 2 glide ramps on the sides. They can't take you very far, it'll just take you right down the middle, but it will give you a slight boost ahead. The right one feels a bit out of the way, but it does line you up good to hit the next following super hard U-turn. In the next section, you'll have a couple more ramps that you can boost off of, but this is the section that literally gives me the biggest high in this entire game. It's full of water geysers, and if you hit any of these with a good glide machine, you can continue to bounce off of future geysers to make your way pretty much to the end of the track by just gliding. Now it does take a lot of paying attention and just making sure you hit the right geysers at the right time, but if you do so successfully, it's going to be hard for anyone to keep up with you. Siberian Highway is one of the few modern stages that has interactables on the ground similar to the first game, where there's actually some lights that you can drop down and hit. If you hit the right one, it will open up a floating path that you can take. If you drop down and hit the left one, it will spawn a path all the way through the green boost ring. But if you have a vehicle with good lift, you don't even need to hit the switch. You can actually just fly into the green boost ring and back onto the track without hitting the bottom rail section. Now the next digital section has 2 options really. You can take this left rail, which has a very long, windy, confusing wrap back around onto the track, or you can hit this purple boost spinner. This will cause you to spin like crazy, but not out of control. You can control your vehicle and blast through any of the spikes that are on the track and continue forward, hitting the strips of boost as you go through the straightaway. This next section is once again heavily going to benefit a glider, where there's a ton of digital green paths that you can float on towards the top, where you can float above all the lasers and dodge them a lot easier, which then goes into a cross section. You can have a left blue section which makes you tiny, or a right blue section which makes you bigger. I felt like turning and getting through the left blue section was always easier and faster in my head compared to the right big section, which feels like it has super slow, long, windy turns that's only going to work really well for ground vehicles. Now obviously the problem here is because you're gigantic, so it actually increases your weight and makes you a lot heavier as well, which could be just as quick as taking the other route, but I don't know, it just felt bulky and not that much fun for me, so taking the small route was always the go-to. This final section has a top road that's phasing in and out of existence. If you see it turning red, that means it's about to disappear. Now if you fall down to the bottom path, it is a slight bit slower, so staying on the top as long as you can is probably your priority. The final section, you have to pay attention to the green boosts that are popping out of the ground, but if not, you can also hit one of the 2 ramps, one on the left or one on the right side as well for a final boost into the goal. Mount Amber Falls doesn't have too many tricks, it's more of a scenic route, but there's a couple of things to point out. If you don't have a machine that's good with flight, it might be hard for you to make that top path. In fact, it might be hard for you to even make the bottom path with certain machines. So if you want to guarantee yourself to take the top path, take this little short area into the dirt over here. You'll then blast you all the way up onto the top path for some reason. Now it is a bit slower, so if you have a boost item, it makes this a lot better, but it will take you on the top path with ease. But if you take the bottom path, you'll have 2 gold boosts. The first one is just right in the middle of the cave, but the second one you'll want to keep drifting and hold that drift all the way to the left, and you'll see a golden boost hidden underneath a cave section. This final waterfall section isn't anything super special, but there are 3 different animations. If you go down the waterfall like normal, you've probably seen that one, but you can also bounce off the cliff side on the left or on the right side depending which one that you're on. Now I do not believe that any of these are faster than the others, I think it's just different animation options, but as you're going down the hill you'll see a little hut to the right which will normally have some food for you to pick up, which will gain an extra boost for you. Now this final section is where a lot of front runners are going to lose. I suggest staying as low to the beach as possible. You're going to get some occasional driftwood which will give you a ramp, and occasionally there will be enemy spawns down there and some that will greatly help you. Like lots of the time I saw wheelie spawns right down there by the shore, so that could give you the extra boost at the end that you need to contain your first place win or to jump into first place if you're behind. Also, like you just seen in my clip, utilize the trail that the person in first is leaving, because this is a final straightaway. This is the Mario Kart World track of this game where you can literally just drive straight and beat everybody else out if you follow that trail closely. The final of the new tracks is Galactic Nova. This track is very cinematic, and most of it is cinematic, but there are some things to look out for. This first branching path, there's a left boost ring, or you can hang to the right and take some grind rails where you can hop from grind rail to continue boosting forward. Now this next section will have giant holes in the track, and there'll be little extruding curves on the outsides of them that you can use to just pretty much bounce off of them. This is very similar to Rainbow Road from Mario Kart Wii, where you can use these as boosts to hop over the holes. This section where you're driving into the Nova, you'll want to use your wing machine big time here. Use the ramps to the left or the right in order to gain boost pads from only being in the air. Yes, you have to be in the air to gain those boosts in this area. Once inside, you can choose to move to the left or to the right. It doesn't really matter, but there's a bunch of popping up ramps that you can choose to jump on. If you hang onto the left area, you can honestly use the first ramp just to hit this rail straight into this tunnel. Now both sides will have rails that you can hit, you just gotta make your way up to them, which means it could be difficult depending on your machine. This next area is very similar to Cavernous corners. Instead of giant geysers, you have these air vents that will continue to blast you up into the air, and you can take a top path with a tight turn back onto the track. Now approaching the final section, there's two wheel-like areas that are sticking out of the ground. You can actually ride these, but be careful, they're going to blast you forward very fast where you'll need to make an immediate right turn. Now the final shot of Galactic Nova exploding is pretty cool, but pay attention to the shooting stars. They'll lead boost paths on the actual track itself, but they will only last for about a second or so before disappearing. Now let's take it back old school with the classic tracks. If you guys never played the original game, then you still want to stick around for these. If you have, maybe you still miss some of these. Well, starting off with Fantasy Meadows, there's immediately a small little vine that you can take that takes you straight onto the ramp, which is by far the quickest and best shortcut that you can take within this entire track. It just keeps the turn very tight and you don't have to worry about drifting really. Now you can hang left and just take the boost pad through the thick grass and over the little rock ramp, but still it's a bit slower than just taking the vine on the right. And then there's a couple of ramps at the very end that you can jump off of for a slight boost. Now I will say, this track is one of the few tracks in the entire game where I feel like I have never lost, because my combo is almost undefeated here. If you have a character which has a special of simply just speeding up, there's a good chance where you can almost always win this track. Remember, keep your eye on your gauge at the bottom right. You can hold your special until it's all the way depleted, so make sure you hold it as long as you can and detonate it towards the start of the third lap if possible. Every time I chose Meta Knight and did that, I never lost. I mean, here's a clip of me in dead last, making the first turn on that third lap, and me popping it right before entering the cave here. And just flying ahead and spamming the wiggle stick spin, I was able to just corkscrew spin myself all the way to the goal easily. Celestial Valley has a couple secrets hidden up its sleeves. The very first ramp has a giant tree stump that you can land on top of for an item pickup. And also when going across the drawbridge, you can actually ride on the right or left rails or rope of that drawbridge. Now depending on your vehicle, you can carry a continuous flight right off that bridge. This next section gives you some options here. You have a bottom, a top, and a middle path. The top path will take you on some rails straight back onto the track, where you can then jump up and grind on these vines that are up in the air. The middle path is going to take you on some more minecart rails, which seems to be a little bit longer than the top one. And of course the bottom one's going to be one of your slowest. Now when you hit this waterfall section, try to hit the waterfall as soon as possible. You'll notice a piece of it will start to the left. This will boost you forward a little bit faster than just waiting for the main section. I'm a pretty big fan of Sky Sands. There's lots of little secrets hidden everywhere on this track. As soon as you come up to the cave, hang to the right and you'll notice a small little extra cave section that goes and cuts the track in half pretty much. If you miss this, you can also ride off of this crab in order to take this top path and gain a boost real quick. Use these little spinning sections to your advantage. In the next section, they can give you more boost as you move forward. And this is another one of the few tracks with an interactable ground. You'll want to hit this switch that you see sticking out of the sand. If you hit it, it'll open up an underneath section which will also cut the course in half for you. And this final section can be kind of detrimental if you don't pay attention. If you're in the lead, these pillars at the end are going to fall according to you. Make sure you're looking closely to which ones are falling and try to get in a groove or slow down if you have to. Also, only half of them will fall in the first lap, so pay close attention to which one is falling over and stay on the opposite side. For Frozen Hillside at the very beginning, the longer you ride those colorful paths, they will rise up higher, which will take you to the top path. To me, I always felt like this path was both less chaotic, easier, and also just faster than taking the bottom one. If you do end up taking the bottom one, you'll have a lot tighter turns and a laser maze that you have to get through. Now, you can make this a lot easier by making sure you drop down and hit the green switch before going through the lasers. While entering the ice cave, you have to make a big right turn. Now you can make this tighter by blasting straight through this wall of ice, but you'll probably need a strong enough weapon or your character's ability to attack to get through it. Oh yeah, you can also hit the switch on the ground to turn on the lights in the cave, if you want to flex on other racers or something. I mean, there's no real benefit to this. And for the final section, especially if you're front running, make sure you're hitting the switches as you're going through this path to keep the walls from closing in on you. Magma flows overall is pretty simple. I feel like the glide machine is definitely an advantage here. There's lots of boost pads where you can just skip lots of the track. For instance, if you jump straight off of this middle vine, you can just fly up over this entire rock maze back onto the volcano area. Just make sure you land just before going up the ramp or you'll go up very slowly. But this final section is where the glide vehicles will prosper because you can glide up to this top path and take this boost path instead of slowly moving through the lava at the bottom. You can take this boost path and continue to fly all the way to the goal pretty much, where you can combo on some more boost pads that are floating around in the lava if you drop down fast enough. Yeah, that bottom path is not fun, and there's really no other option for you to take besides taking the boost pads or maybe trying to glide off of one of the rocks sticking out of the lava. It's just a very slow, straightforward section. Beanstalk Park has also always been one of my favorites. Off the first ramp area, you can jump and glide all the way to this vine if you have a certain vehicle. This Ferris wheel will be your nuisance of this track though. If you get picked up, it'll take you to a top path that's a lot slower than going through it. However, your goal is to make your way back up to this path even if you make it through the Ferris wheel on the bottom one, because there's lots of vines and rails that you'll want to take. For instance, if you hug this right section, there will be a blue rail that you can ride that leads into two vine sections. You can take these vines all the way to the final section. And if you practice getting this last turn down, it will be almost impossible for people to beat you consistently on this track. If you have a glide vehicle, you'll want to drop almost immediately to boost into a right turn or glide slow and low to the ground in order to cut the turn while in mid-air. Finally, we have a track that's heavily going to benefit quick turning ground vehicles. There's an immediate right turn you can take as soon as you enter the facility, which is going to grant you a huge advantage off the start. Now you can decide to stay straight and jump over to the far section without falling down into the slower section, but it's still not as quick as hitting that quick right turn in the beginning. Now this next area is completely up to you which path you take. The right path has a lot more fans, but it seems to be maybe a slight bit quicker. You're going to just have to watch out for the fans so that way you don't get slowed down. The top path is going to be your safer option, or if you have a flight vehicle, you want to ride the waves of the fans, but it can be tricky because at the very end of the hallway you have to make an immediate turn, so you might not want to be in the air for too long at all on this track. On this big looping turn, you're going to want to do your best to hang on to the right side where there's two boost pads, and then the path will split, a left, right, or middle path. Definitely take either the left or right. If you take the left, you can still jump on a grind rail on the side and dash through all those yellow spinners. But the right side is where it's at, because it will take you all the way above all the spinners, so you don't have to deal with any of them in that room. And trust me, it's worth it because they can greatly slow you down if you get stuck on one. Next up, we have Checker Knights. Now this one has a lot of hidden shortcuts that you have to really have a keen eye for. Two of them come in the form of hidden caves. If you go into this first right cave section and bust through the wall, you'll notice there's a shortcut that leads into an immediate next one that you can bust through as well. Make sure you have a heavy-weighted character or somebody that can attack in order to break this wall down, or you might be spinning for a while to get these walls to actually crumble. In this next area, I recommend taking some of the rail sections. You can take the right blue one, which is pretty quick, but the left red one seems to even be just as quick, but you're going to have to hug that left wall really tight with a good turning vehicle. And don't worry about flipping and flopping up on the walls of this next section, because even if you go above the boost cylinder area, you can still boost on the top of it. This next area you have to make your way up a spire, but you'll be hitting these dizzy, spinny circles, which will spin you out of control. You'll want to do your best to stay in the blue section, as the gray section will greatly slow you down. So once again, having a good controllable vehicle here is key. Now this is a secret that's going to go over a lot of newcomers' heads and probably blow your mind, but there's actually a way to jump over this wall right here, and if you see other people doing it online, let me tell you how you do it. You're moving so extremely fast, so it can be very hard to see, especially after all these boost panels, but there's a very small bump in the road that you can actually bump off of in order to blast you up over the wall. But if you have a heavier, more ground-based vehicle, you're not going to make it over this wall. Also, if you're in a lead, watch out for the pink buttons on the floor here. It will bring up a wall in this little room that will block you out and you'll have to go around it. So pay attention to where the wall is ahead of you if another player has hit it, and make sure you're hitting the corresponding button that you need to in order to open up that path for you for a straight shot into the goal. Now remember when I said Mount Amber Falls had a Mario Kart World section at the very end? Well, let me introduce you to Nebula Beld. This entire track is Mario Kart World the game. Yeah, I know, lots of Mario Kart World shade, I'm sorry. But yeah, this track is literally just one straight line for the most part, with ever so gradually turning curves. So pretty much whoever has the fastest vehicle is probably going to do the best here. A heavy, fast moving vehicle that just moves straight. There is absolutely nothing to this track, and honestly, if I have to be true and honest, the only way you're probably going to win this track is if you bag. I know, it sounds horrible, especially in something like Kirby Air Riders, but that's the only way. If you're leading on this track, you'll almost always lose because you're driving dead straight, and everybody behind you is simply just going to ride your draft and catch up to you at the very end, especially since the last path is just a literal straightaway. Whether you win or lose is going to depend pretty much on entire luck, whether it be luck on the vehicle that you have at the time of this track appearing, luck of the item that you get on the final stretch, and just luck if your special pops at the right time. So there's a lot of caveats for this stage, but there's not many shortcuts or anything that I can really give in order to increase your experience or allow you to play better. But that is every single shortcut and secret path in Kirby Air Riders. Hopefully I was able to help you improve your game and maybe use some of these shortcuts in order to do a lot better in casual or ranked mode, whatever you've been playing lately. These tips have helped me greatly improve in ranked mode and rank up higher than ever, so if I was able to help you improve at all, make sure you leave a like and subscribe in order to stay up to date on all things Kirby Air Riders and Nintendo in general. And like always, I hope you all have a blessed day. See ya, guys.